My name's Oisín Lunny. I'm Chief Evangelist at Open Market, and we are a company that helps the world's largest brands connect with their customers in the moments when it counts by using empathetic interactions. And if you'd like some more information about that, just let's connect on some of the social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. I'm tweeting a lot using the event hashtag, which is South Summit 18. Please feel free to take photographs of our amazing rockstar speakers and tag them and share it using the event hashtag all day. So we're going to have a talk all about cybersecurity and identity, and it gives me a great pleasure to introduce to the stage the CEO of Authentics. Please welcome Ron Atzmon. Yeah. Awesome. Welcome, man.
Good. How you doing?
Great. So you have a really interesting journey and a really interesting story. Tell us a bit about how you got to where you are today.
Okay, so we're quite an interesting company. So in respect, we started as a small R&D unit in a bigger company that does airport security. And about 10 years ago, I was brought in to see how we can make a business out of it.
Yeah.
Because we understood that in the immigration world, it's a very limited market. So we read an article about banks getting fined for not doing proper KYC, and one of the KYC processes is checking documents and facial biometrics. And we tried, it was 2008, actually 2007, we tried approaching a few banks with our scanner business model. Didn't really work out. We hit the brick wall a few times. And I think the big break came around like 2012, 2013, when online financial services started waking up.
Yeah.
And that's when we built our new product, which is, it's a cloud-based service that basically you can upload images, identity documents, driver license, passports, and your biometrics capabilities to our server, and we can authenticate it for you. And since then, we've been scaling rapidly. We have over 70 customers. A few of them we do PayPal and Google and Airbnb, and Visa is one of our partners. And some of the digital ventures of BBVA in the US are working with us. We have customers from down south in New Zealand up to Seattle, and also down in Latam. So it's it's a fascinating industry.
Yeah, perfect. And it's like those are not small startups you mentioned. These are like leading.
We have also startups. We cater everybody.
Excellent, excellent. But if people like PayPal are using you, this means you're doing something very, very right. So, what did the process look like before Authentics, and where, if you could outline where the pain points would have been for some of those big companies, and how did you help solve those pain points?
So actually, what we do is not just on. We don't just deal in the digital journey. We also deal with, at the branch point of view. I can tell you. I'll give you two examples. One example is one of our oldest customers is Renault Nissan Financial. So it's the funding company of the car manufacturer. And we've been working with them since 2012, doing doing their lending for cars at the branches.
Right.
And they started with our older product with our scanner-based solution. And before they were working with our scanner-based solution, it took, if you got into a dealership in the UK up to 12 noon that day, you would get an answer on a go for a car loan by 4 p.m. that day. If you would have arrived after 12 noon, you would get an answer the morning after. Now, of course, it's not a good customer experience, and of course, you come to the dealership, you want to buy a car, you don't want to wait. It's rational, but it's also a bit of an emotional acquisition.
For sure.
So what we've done is we allowed Renault Nissan to automate the process and give an answer in 20 minutes for a go, no go on a car loan. So you get to the dealership, you already do the application, go pick up a car. By the time you pick up a car, you know if you can get a loan and what kind of a loan you can get from. So that's at the branch, if you call it. With regards to some of our online players, not the smaller ones, but the bigger ones, they have huge call centers in different locations around the world. And until now, what they've done is they used to get the documents or the metrics and used to do it manually. So what we do for them is we allow them to automate the process and give an answer in a couple of seconds. And the beauty of it, because, and I don't know if you've tried, if you had an issue with one of the big wallets, if you try, you post a problem, they restrict your account. It takes at least a couple of hours, if not a couple of days until they lift the restriction. What we allow them now is basically to give a much quicker turnaround, even in a couple of seconds, to lifting the restrictions and actually also not just this. I mean, it's one of the challenger banks in Europe. We do for them the onboarding on a pan-European basis. So we allow them immediate activation. So that's either they couldn't do that before we existed, or we automate for them most of the process.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a time delay of the next day or 4 hours if you're lucky, to a time delay of minutes or seconds.
Seconds, not minutes.
Wow.
And our competitors give minutes. We give seconds.
Oh, okay. That's a challenger talk. I like it. Excellent. Did you get any pushback from your clients who kind of associate things taking time with quality? Do they see a trade-off between the quality of the authentication and automation? Do you get any kind of pushback saying things need to be done more thoroughly, or is it the technology just totally smashes it in terms of timing?
It's always I would say there's always an interesting balance on what you give for speed and what you give away for from a security point of view and from the quality point of view.
Right.
So, of course, you would like to live in a perfect world that you get 100% protection, but unfortunately, you only get 100% on two things: death and taxes. Everything
Very
else,
true. Yes.
you need to mitigate in a way. And so there's always, when we sit with our customers, and I like to see, I have 4 kids, each of my child is unique.
Yeah.
Each one of our over 70 customers, we treat them like one of our child. So each one of them is unique, even in the same space. I can tell you, we do a couple of the major crypto exchange, we do Coinbase, we do eToro. So they're in the same sector, but each one of them is wired differently.
Yeah.
One of them is more aggressive with customer acquisition. One of them is more risk averse. Depends on the geolocation where they work. So what we do is we sit with them, we understand their needs, and because the system is very, we give a variety of answers. It's very rich in the answers, so you can basically pick and choose based on how you work and your state of mind of acquisition.
Yeah.
What do you take? Okay, do you want to ignore some of the quality alerts that we give, not ignore them, be more forgiving on stuff that's coming in, but in the other way that you can onboard more customers, or you want, okay, I want a bit push back, okay, I'm good with our customer base, I want to be play it more safe.
Yes. Right, interesting. So I suppose there's a certain amount of risk that some companies will take for the small amounts that might, there's a trade-off between, time, etc. I mean, I'm sure I've used your service many times. I mean, you just mentioned Coinbase. I remember taking a photograph of my driver's license, going away, coming back straight away, fantastically smooth, so brilliant work. Now, obviously, the whole kind of regulatory landscape around personal data is changing very quickly with the likes of the GDPR. How does this impact the KYC industry?
It's a good question. I think no. The problem is that, like different regulations have been written, it's been written not in a very clear way.
Right.
So it's open for interpretation.
Yeah.
So what it does, it creates lots of, I won't call it chaos, but you give the same regulation to be read by 2 different compliance officers, in which each one of them looks at it differently and gives you a different interpretation. So when we became GDPR compliant, we took 2 legal firms to work on this. And well, first of all, the lawyers are making a lot of money out of it. The accountants making a lot of money of it. We are paying it. Yeah. So it's you need to every company looks at it a bit different.
Yeah.
Everybody's very afraid because the fines are insane.
Yes.
And I think that I would say this, whoever wrote the GDPR I don't really think that he understands what will be the end consequence of what you wrote.
Yes.
And not in a negative way, and not in a not to say in a bad way for them, but they should have maybe more articulated a bit clearer.
Right.
And what it creates a bit of a mess in the industry.
Yeah.
Because everybody's treating it differently, and when we sit with each one of our customers we work with, you need to sign a DPA, and so the DPA.
Yeah. We
try to have it as a standard, but there's no standard. More than 70 different DPA. It's creating many challenges, and I think what happened is that after we pass the first 12 months, and we'll see how the regulators are treating this, and when they start doing auditing, forget how they're gonna, of course, probably target Google and Facebook and all the big companies.
Yes.
But we're not the big players. We're like how they're gonna treat like the big medium-sized companies that are not like in the top tier, like second and third tier.
Yeah.
So it will be definitely it will be interesting, and we'll see how serious they are in executing these issues.
Yeah, interesting times for sure.
Yeah.
A friend of mine works in GDPR, and she compares like chief data officers to unicorns. They're like equally as valuable and rare. They're just impossible to find. But
no. I can tell you when I finished my MBA at Imperial in 2002, I had one of my buddies went to become a compliance officer. Nobody wanted to be a compliance officer because it was wasn't that attractive. The salary was okay.
Yeah.
Now it's like you go find a compliance officer.
He's like a rock star.
And he's like a rock star, and he becomes very powerful. Fantastic. And they get paid heavy cash.
He turns up to work in a stretch limo. It's heavy money, right?
Cash. No cash. Cashless.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. Good point. I mean, cashless is one fascinating new technology. We've also got things like biometrics, like blockchain. I mean, how is all this new tech impacting the world of digital identity?
So if we try to look at it, blockchain is one thing, biometrics is another thing. When it comes to biometrics, it just gives you a better enhancements of the security that better authentication of the users. And the question is, what is the right biometrics? You have finger, you have eye, you have face. I personally don't believe in finger because everybody can fake your finger.
Controversial?
Very controversial.
You heard it here from an expert.
No. Listen, think of it. It's very easy to copy your fingerprint.
Right.
Now let's, God forbid someone steals your fingerprint. And they go kill someone. And they put your finger on the weapon.
Yes.
Go prove it's not you. So I would try to prevent giving my fingerprint.
Oh, okay.
But when it comes to face and iris, I'd be much more for it.
Interesting.
I'm against the finger.
Very good. Yeah, I just got one of the new iPhones, and the finger.
I don't do the finger.
Really?
I never give my finger. Only when you come to the US, you have no other point.
Yeah, that's it. In the
you have
airport.
no other option. Going into blockchain, which is a totally separate topic, I think, you saw the fact that. I don't know how people are educated, but Equifax had a breach.
Yes.
And it had a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Only 150, 160 million users. And Facebook now with their 50 million, and it's so the fact that you need to keep your customer data, you need to keep it. You can't avoid it. But I don't know. People know PII. That's the acronym for keeping personal data. It's like fire. And everybody's trying to stay away from this potato. So for example, we don't keep at the moment PII because we try to stay away from this issue because dealing with, we process PII, but keeping it puts you in a different world. I think that keeping PII on the block is, I think, in that respect, I think the block is bringing an interesting approach how to manage and keep personal data, how to protect it, how it will be a bit more complicated to steal personal data. Everything is still. By the way, if people are thinking about like foolproof, as I said, nothing is foolproof.
Right.
Everything can be hacked.
Yeah.
Eventually, I know enough hackers that also intrigued on how they can break the block as well.
Yeah.
But I think that definitely that identity companies like us. Actually, we don't call ourselves identity. We call ourselves an onboarding company.
Nice.
We use identity to enable onboarding.
Yeah.
I think that the block would be a very interesting way to take it to the next level, make our industry a bit more safer, make people's data a bit more safer, make it more scalable, and I think we might. The path I'm seeing is that probably is about tokenization of identity. And the block is basically what's going to enable this.
Yeah.
And then by tokenizing it, you can have less data points on you as a user being like swimming in the cyber world.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's an interesting perspective I read recently from a guy called Ewan Semple, and he says one of Apple's greatest products is privacy. So the fact that, obviously all the data is with Apple, but in theory it's not with everybody else, which is an interesting business model. So we have a little bit of time for a question from the audience. Do we have any questions from the audience for this leading security expert? I've already got a great takeaway, which is fingerprints are absolutely a bad idea on your phone. I didn't realize this. I'm very happy I have a new phone with no fingerprint reader. Any questions? Any questions? I have a question. What's next for Authentics?
Okay. So we currently, our main focus is where we're coming from is from the image point of view.
Yeah.
The fact that we are the single provider for most of our customers.
Yeah.
And if you look at the landscape of when you do onboarding for a customer, it's compiled of a few pillars.
Yeah.
There's the document and biometrics piece, there's the data piece, there's the credit piece, there's the AML piece and compliance.
Yeah.
So we're at the top of our game at the biometrics and the document piece.
Yeah.
What's happening, because when you do the onboarding, you always start with the biometrics and the identity, and from the identity you get the data to start doing the queries.
Yeah.
We are starting to build a full stack solution that will compile biometrics and document, data, compliance, risk. So basically giving, instead of a customer needs to do, at the moment, the way we see our customers, they do different API integration with different providers.
Right.
Well, I would say the holy grail of the industry is one single API that provides everything in a holistic approach.
Amazing.
And because anyhow we're the first API call in the process, so we're looking to build everything, a downstream process for our business.
Very smart.
Yeah.
That sounds like the future is incredibly bright for Authentics. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Didn't even get a chance to mention Ron is actually a brilliant DJ and is heading up to Ibiza today. I kid you not. Ladies and gents, please give a big round of applause for Ron Asman. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.